Yes, he is. We're super excited tonight to have a panel of amazing ladies that are going to be sharing with us. And so I want to invite the ladies, Abby and Monica and Roberta and my wife Suzanne. Let's give them excited to hear from these ladies tonight.
Hi, everyone. Happy Mother's Day to our moms out there. We're so excited to have you with us tonight. And I'm so thankful to have these ladies up here with me today. They're going to get a chance to share and introduce themselves here in just a minute. But I just want to take a moment before we start tonight to acknowledge the journey that we're all on. And when we think about Mother's Day, it brings to mind different things for all of us. We all have a mother, and that can bring great joy and great pain at times. For some of us, we're on a journey to motherhood, or you're maybe in a journey of motherhood that's brought great joy and maybe sometimes great pain. And as people of God, we can hold both. We can hold times of celebration, of great joy, and we can hold pain and grief at the same time. And so I just want to acknowledge and honor you, wherever you are on your journey tonight, whatever that looks like for you personally, that as we have some moments of celebration tonight, I also want to acknowledge the pain and the grief that maybe has been a part of your story. And so we're going to celebrate tonight, and also we're going to honor those places in our journey. So as we plan this time, the verse that came to mind for me was Revelation 12:11. And you may think, that's a strange place to start a Mother's Day moment, is in the end times, in the book of Revelation, but just hang with me. Revelation 12:11 says, they triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. The word of their testimony. And our testimony really just means our story, right? Our story. And these ladies are going to be sharing some of their story with us tonight. And my hope and my prayer is that as they share their story, that it brings power, that it brings that place of triumph. As we hear these stories, I want us to really have vision. I want it to give us vision tonight for our own journey. Because the journey that you're on, the things that you walk in here carrying today are very different than these ladies. They're very different from the place that they're at. But we all come in and we all need vision for our story. We all have places where we need victory. And by them sharing their stories with us tonight, my hope is that it gives us hope, it gives us vision, and it gives us power to overcome the places that we need to overcome in tonight. And so I want to start by just giving each mom a chance to introduce themselves. They're going to tell us their name, tell us kind of what fills their days, what season of motherhood they're in, and they're just going to share a little bit about themselves. If I have not gotten a chance to meet you, I'm Suzanne. You've probably seen me up here before, but we have 4 kids, 15, 13, 11, and 9, and that's our story. And now, so I want to pass it. We have a mic. So Monica, why don't you start us and introduce yourself?
Is it on? Hello? Okay, I am Monica. I am a mother of 4. Leia is 10, Eugene is 6, Elisha's 5, and Olivia is 4. No, yes, 4. Okay, yes. 4, 5, 6, yes. So me and my husband have 4 children together. We also have my brother-in-laws that we also took in 6 years ago. 6 years ago, yes. So Nico and John, and we have another one that we take care of, my 4-month-old niece, Karina, who's back there with my husband, and I'm sure I've had more along the way, but yeah, that's been our journey, just kind of being a mother or parents to many children.
My name is Abby, and me and my husband have 4 kids. Our oldest is Solomon, and he is 8. And then we have an Eve, and she's almost 7. And then we have a Sapphira, who's 4, and a Zadok, who's 1.
My name's Roberta, and I have five kids and 11 grandchildren. And yeah, so Pablo where's Pablo? He's not even here yet. He's my oldest. He's 43. Gabriel, who's here, he's 41, I think, 40. They're all aging in another year this year. 41, Christiana's 37, Samuel's in his 30s, 32, 30, and then 33, and Juliana's 30. And lots of grandkids, so I won't even tell you their ages.
That's so great. So as you can see, we've got women from all different seasons of motherhood. And so they're each going to share a little bit about what's happening in their season right now. And so I hope just as we listen that we're able to just glean those pieces from their story that are going to inspire us and give us hope today. So we're going to start with Monica, if you don't mind passing the mic back down. So, Monica, can you just share a little bit about your experience of what you have learned as a mom of your own kids, biological kids, and then also mothering the people in your home who are not your biological kids?
Well, so every time I think that I've stretched myself out too thin, I'm like, okay, no more, Lord, I can't do any more. Well, he brings more. So don't say that. But I always knew, for example, with my brother-in-laws, I always felt like the Lord kind of was preparing me that I was going to take them in at one point. And maybe because when I started dating my husband, I was young and they were young too. So I always kind of took them under my wing and took them to school and did all that, but never did I think that they were going to, move in with us. So that was a big, shock. But then in a way, God told me and my husband. So, yeah, but then at one point we took in my nieces and we were in a 2-bedroom and we had 6 people and we thought, this is just ridiculous. This is too much. Well, right now, we have 10 people in our house, and we have a 4-bedroom. But it's funny because my friend B told me not that long ago, she said, it's funny how God gives you the one thing that exhausts you the most to bring growth. And I was like, as I had the baby, I said, yeah, I'm tired. I am. I'm really tired. But I always tell my husband, some people are living it up. They don't have, babies and other people's kids that, that you've helped raise and stuff. And, and we think about it and it's like, oh, I wouldn't want to do anything but this. I feel like the Lord gave me these, not challenges, but gave me these children and said, these are your responsibilities. This is what you're going to do, and this is what I made you for. So I feel like when I go to heaven, he's going to say, well done. And then he's going to give me my own bed. Go.
You were talking about how you feel like at times you get stretched and you're stretched to the max. So what do you do in times like that when you do feel super stretched? what do you do to kind of like refresh yourself in God, or get to the place where you're like, okay, I feel stretched to the max. How do I restore on the inside?
So definitely, my husband and I, we have our community. It's so important. We have our people we go to. I have my friends that I go to that are very honest with me, that will point out things that I need to work on, or point out something that, may need to change, or something that I need to have more grace for. Life group is so important. Just being plugged into a life group and having that ability to reach out and say, hey guys, like, I'm not doing good right now. I need prayer. Obviously praying and reading your word, but I have 4 kids, 4.5 kids. Sometimes I don't have that energy to sit there and even say, Lord, I'm listening. Let me just wait, because that doesn't happen with little ones in this season. But definitely asking my friends for prayer, asking for their advice, us reaching out to people and saying, hey, this is our situation right now. Please pour into us because we're desperate. So that's really important.
That's so good. And I hope you're hearing this, because for each of you, we all have places where we get to, where we are stretched to the max. Maybe that's you here tonight, or maybe you can think of a time where you're like, yes, I was stretched to the max. And it's such a good reminder of we're not in it alone. We're not in it alone. We're here together as the body of Christ in order to support each other, to encourage each other, and to walk through it together. So I love that, Monica. Thank you. So good. Abby, I'd love to hear how you have maintained a sense of mission as a mom in the middle of your season with 4 little bitties. You're homeschooling them. You got a husband working outside the home full time. How do you maintain that sense of mission in the middle of the season that you're in?
So I just want to say, I just read a whole book about this by Sally Clarkson. It's called The Mission to Motherhood, and she just does amazing, puts it all together. But I feel like for me, one thing I really do is focus on the promises the Lord has given me for my own kids. So the Lord gave me a verse out of Isaiah: the Lord will be your children's teacher, and great will be their peace. And so I've reflected so much on what that is, because peace is not just playing soft music in the background in the absence of bickering, but really peace is knowing in those really, really hard trials that Jesus is for us, and He is. He is more for my kids than I am, which is mind-boggling, but I feel like I've seen an overarching, He protects my kids better than I can, and He also leads me in the day-to-day thing. So my dad passed away really suddenly, and it was like he was fine and he was gone. And my heart was to always be like, my kids need to say goodbye. Papa was in our lives every day, and we were always talking about Papa, and he was gone. And so I was like, they need to say goodbye. And as I asked the Lord, He changed my heart, and He said, he's gone. And just knowing the trauma it probably would have caused my kids to see my dad gone was just like this huge peace over my life of He really protects my kids better than I do. And I also feel like it's not only those huge protections that they need, but it's also this daily walking with the Lord. I had this, at one point my husband was working out of town 4 days a week. He was working nights, he was exhausted when he was home, he was gone when he was gone, and we had a rough day. And I only had 2 kids at the time. I was probably pregnant, but it was cold, dinner was in the oven, my kids wanted to go on a walk. I'm like, okay, just get in the stroller. I strapped Eve in, but then I forgot her coat, so I had to take her back out and had to strap her back in, but she wouldn't let me do that. She's like losing her mind. I'm like, whatever, we're just going down the street. no big deal. Well, I hit this bump in the sidewalk, and she flies out and chips her tooth. And I was like, so mad at myself, so mad at her, so mad at the situation, and that's mothering, right? Like, oh my gosh, I just like damaged my child, and I also have to deal with this. And I just remember sitting that night after they had gone to bed, and like, Lord, I can't do this. I feel so tired. I don't know what to do with them. And I felt like the Lord said, you need more of me. I'm like, great. I don't really have time, like, you have little kids. My kids, they like know when I get up in the morning, they're instantly awake. And so later that week, I was randomly listening to a podcast that was talking about praying with our kids and not just for our kids. And so I started doing that in their immaturities and their tantrums and their losing their minds. I would sit there while they're really upset and just pray, Lord, help me. I don't know what to do with them. And then I would slowly, pray with them. Like, I can't truly change my kids' hearts. I would love to make kind kids, but I really want kids that want to be kind, kids that want to obey the Lord. And so we started praying I would demonstrate it. I would pray for my own heart. I'm frustrated too. Like, that's not what the Lord wants for us. And then we would pray for their heart, or they would pray for their heart. And that has been so grounding in my mothering journey of just praying together. And you hear that so often in marriage, like, pray together and you'll stay together. But I feel like heart connections with your kids are hard because they're all different. They all need something different. And so getting to pray with my kids for them and with them has been, I think, the biggest thing.
So good. I love that so much. And even just, I'm sure all of us have been there where we get to that point where we're like, oh my goodness, what in the world? So I love hearing that story. And the other question I have for you is, how do you maintain, obviously there's the grounding level of peace that we work at, day to day, but how do you maintain that sense of peace on a day where everybody's acting a little crazy, everybody, high emotions, we've got all the things happening. How do you get to that place of just like, okay, I need to go back to my peaceful place? How do you do that in the middle of the crazy? What does that look like for you, just practically?
Well, I feel like yesterday my daughter was losing her mind and just screaming. And so I feel like so much of it is just inviting the Lord into those places. And just, I don't even pray anything holy. I just say, help me. I don't know what to do with this child. And so often, like, realizing so much of my life is just grace. Like, the Lord has been so kind to me and wanting to love my kids the way that he loves me. And so when I put myself into that place, I let the Lord bring me grace so I can have grace for them.
So good. I love that because we have to receive that first. We have nothing to give to our kids or to the ones that we're loving on in our season, in our life right now. We have nothing to give unless we receive it from the Lord first. And so that is our number one priority of how do we get that grace, get that love from God in order to give it to the ones around us that are in our world. So thanks, Abby. So good. Roberta, you have kids, grandkids, and so many other people in your life that you're a mother in the Lord too. And so I'd love to know just what does that look like in your journey to a lot of people looking at you, wanting more of you, and how do you navigate all of that and also carry them in prayer? The ones that maybe don't live in the city limits or next door, the ones who don't live next door, how do you carry those ones and maintain a relationship with those ones in prayer?
Well, that's a hard question. I don't know. That's my question. God is so gracious, when you feel so stretched with so many things that you're doing, and then yet he gives you that time for each person, and So for me, when I see that, when there is people in need or my kids are in need, and I'm not there for them, sometimes I'm not there, and I can see that, oh no, I can't be there when they're hurting or whatever. It's that just really spending that time with the Lord. Okay, show me how to be there when I am present and be able to minister in a certain way. But prayer is so important, and I really, talk with the Lord in situations that are hard for people that I see that they're going through. And I'm like, okay, I can't fix it, and I'm not God, and to really give it to the Lord and in areas, and for my kids or my grandkids, I do want to be there for each one of them, but to get to know them is so important, and to be able to spend when I am with them, I get to really pay attention to who they are, what they're doing, what's going on in their life when I'm talking to them, and then how to minister. So really being in the present time with them, and then be able to minister in that way. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's so good. Tell us a little bit about practically, I know maybe it's for their birthdays, I'm not sure exactly but what does it look like when you go and take your grandkids on dates? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's always fun because that's how I get to know them. And that's why I wanted to do it. And so each child, when it's their birthday, I have a date with them and get to talk with them, get to know what they like, their colors, their favorite colors, or just little things, which is fun. And so I want them to have a memory of that. And I'm not into favorites because, it's easy to have favorites when you're parenting, and not really favorites, but just there's one child that might get more attention. And with all these grandkids, I want them to know that each one of them are my favorites. So that's another thing that I want to pour into them when I have these dates with them, that they're so important to me.
So good. I love that so much. And Roberta so both Jonathan and my parents, they live far away. They don't live in town. And so Roberta has been a stand-in. Roberta and Johnny have been stand-in grandparents a lot of times when we needed someone on the ground in the moment. She came down with us to Mexico to look at schools with us one time because I'm like, I just need another person looking at these schools with us, being able to speak into this journey. And I'm so thankful for that in you. And just an encouragement that maybe your kids or your grandkids don't live in town, you're not able to do those, one-on-one moments, but grab another. If you just look around, once the kids come back in, you just look around. We've got a lot of kids, so just in case you were wondering, there's a lot of kids out there. So get to know a kid in our community. Get to know a family in our community and offer to the mom, hey, could I take your kid out just to hang out, have ice cream sometime, or if there's anything you need. We are a community among each other. Whether we are a biological family or not, we are the family of God. And so I love, Roberta, just how you've modeled that, taking in those people in your community to love on and to care for. I'd also love for you to talk to us a little bit about how your mom has passed, but for a long time you were also her caregiver along with your sisters. And what did that look like to navigate kind of a different season where you are having to take care of your mom? Tell us a little bit about that.
That was a real difficult season for me because as I'm taking care of my mom, I really wanted to be with my grandkids because I was watching them grow up, and I'm like, I'm not there for them. And so, but it was difficult, but there were rewards in it. And in the beginning, it was frustrating because once you're in that season, you don't even know you're in that season. You're just there all of a sudden, and you're taking care of your mom. And this is whenever the Lord takes her home, right? So, and prior to that, it was my dad, and then my mom. And so that frustration and that time being stretched and that challenge was there, and you're saying, Lord, how do I do this? And when I finally surrendered and said, I can't do this, I'm giving it to you, show me how, it became enjoyable in my heart, because it was like, my mom wants to go eat, let's go eat. Let's do whatever she wants to do. Because it was such a short season when you look at it. It seemed really long at the time, like raising kids. It seems really long, but it's really short. And so when I gave that to the Lord, and then he's, like I said, he's so gracious, because once you surrender and give him everything, then there's time. I still had time to go on my dates with my kids, my grandkids. So he makes that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so important of just saying, okay, what is the one that you have placed in front of me right now, Lord? And how can I love the one? Just right in the middle of that moment, to be fully present, to be available in that place. So we've all been through ups and downs, such as the journey of motherhood and just life, right? But tell us, for each of you guys, what does it look like in difficult seasons of motherhood to maintain that sense of peace, to maintain that sense of joy? How do you keep going in the difficult seasons? Because haven't we all been there when we're like, I give up, I'm done, I'm just gonna walk away because I can't do this anymore? We've all been there, no matter the season, no matter what it looked like in our journey. So for you guys, what does it look like when you approach those difficult seasons? How do you keep going?
We've had a lot of difficult seasons in our family. So we grab on to our community, to our family, to especially, it's so important to just continue to pray for someone or for a family member, even though you don't see breakthrough, you don't see change, you don't see this big miracle happening. We prayed for my sister-in-law for how many years? 2 years? 3? We prayed for her. It was pretty bad. She was on drugs and on the street, and we took in her daughters. At one point, I remember my husband saying, I'm done. I'm done. And I remember we would stay up late crying because we would put our babies to sleep and then have her kids, somewhere in our house, and our boys too. My big boys too in the house, and we would just go to bed crying. And but God showed up. He brought her, and she is now, I think, 4 years sober. And she did a whole turnaround, and she's back in my house with her girls. It was such a hard season, but just being able to, but it was so hard too. Really hard. I'm remembering back. It was really hard. But it was just, with pain comes growth, and it was so much pain. And the boys, went through it with us. And Leia was so small, my 10-year-old, and we tell her stories now, and her faith is just so big because she knows, all right, mom and dad, don't say no. We never say no. I don't know why. Roberta sees me sometimes, and she's like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good. But, the way I see it is like, as long as I'm breathing, as long as I can do something or help someone, I'm going to do it. Because, God is, he's so big and he's so great, and he does so much for myself, for my husband. Our story is insane, I'm not going to share it, but it's crazy. And just to see the miracles that he's done in our marriage, in our lives, with the boys, with my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. You guys see us, we sit up here. Ask one of them. They're not here right now, just my friend. But it's, yeah, God's so good. He's so good. And because he's so good to us, I'm going to be good to others. Whether you're my family, my friends, whatever. I won't say no. Just don't take advantage of it. Because I'll still do it.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. I love what you said. With pain comes growth. And sometimes in our American society, we want to run from pain. We want to run from those painful places and say, like, that feels like a lot. That feels like too much. I'm going to say no. But as they've said, yes to the pain, to the painful places, to the hard things, to the difficult seasons, God has brought growth through their entire family. And I love that. So good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about you guys? How do you navigate difficult seasons?
Well, I feel like, actually, Monica, you touched on it. Like, actually feeling those feelings of deep despair or of pain or of when we felt called to move here, that was not what I wanted. It was very much the Lord told me to move, and I said, really? Are you sure? And then our journey was really rough. Like, our moving truck broke down. The place we were supposed to live was not ready. And then it was leaking water. So we essentially packed this truck to unpack it immediately. And then we went to an Airbnb. And we Airbnb hopped for weeks. And at one point, I was like, what are we doing? Like, I felt forsaken. And I poured my heart out to the Lord. And I feel like we're so scared of those really deep emotions, but God designed them. And in parenting, we will experience those in our children. And so if we're scared of them in ourselves, we're going to be scared of them in our kids, and we're going to cripple them, essentially. And so I feel like just really feeling that and telling the Lord, I feel like the biggest thing is he already knows that I feel that way, but when I tell him, he gives me freedom or surrender. And the Lord is so kind. He sees us, and when we surrender, he gives us freedom. And literally the next day after, I was like, I feel this way, but I'm not only going to feel it, I'm going to speak truth over this too. And I do that with my kids so often. You feel like you hate your sister, and that's okay to feel that angry. But the truth is you love them. And so after I said that, I feel forsaken, I said, but I know you're good. And I know you're kind, and I know you see me. And literally the next day we got a call of like, come, you got chosen for this house out of 300 people. And so I think that's really what my biggest thing is to get through this is I take it to God, and I feel it, and I get angry. And if anybody can handle our emotions, it's God. He designed us. And so I do that with my kids too. And it's amazing when we name those emotions, how he gives us freedom.
So good. That is so true. God designed those emotions inside of us, and he is not afraid of those. If you just open Psalms, like literally any Psalm, you see David like really poured his heart out. He didn't hold back. He didn't like soften it up. He was like, here you go. Here's all of it. And I think sometimes we feel a little reticent to do that, but God calls us to lay out our hearts before him. And we can do that practically so my children are very intuitive. They'll take one look at me and be like, are you sad, mommy? Are you sad? Are you crying? But they know what emotions I'm feeling. So I didn't feel like I could just totally let it go in front of them, especially when they were little. And so whenever they were little, I would drive in my car by myself, and I would go park somewhere, like at a park or something where I knew I could be by myself. But I would just close the doors of the car. I would turn up the music really loud, and I would just let it all out in my car. I would just cry, yell to the Lord, whatever I needed to do, just get it all out. Not around my kids, but in the safety of my little car cocoon. And then I was able to go back into life, go back into mothering, but just a small practical. If you feel like you don't have the space and place to be able to really let it all out, maybe if you have little kids around, there's an option. And then the people at the park are like, wow, that's a lot. She's got a lot going on. It's fine. It's fine. You're just like, keep walking. Everything's fine. So, Roberta, tell us how you navigate difficult seasons.
Okay. Well, pretty much what they had said. You know, you cry out to the Lord, and that's what I do. Do a lot of crying to the Lord, and then you have the community, and that's a blessing. Like to have a church and have community around you, and those ones that those specific people that you know that you can go to, and talk to them, and they can encourage you. And that's why the body is so important, because we need one another to encourage each other. And so I do have some good friends that do that for me. They'll let me vent, and you know, they'll encourage me, pray with me, and so that's important. But crying out to the Lord is just, you know, he's always there. Even though he doesn't seem like he's there at the moment, like you're so forsaken, he is always there, because you know the truth. You know what his word says. He will never leave us nor forsake us. And so you hold on to the truth that you know about him, and believe it in your heart. And putting on a worship music always soothes me and brings me back to focus. And so that helps also.
That's so good. And one of the parts of our vision is to get real with each other. And sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes I want to feel like or look like I have it all together. That I've got motherhood down, check. I've got, you know, every part of my life is just put together real nice and pretty, but that's not real, right? We are all messy. We are all on the journey. We all have days where we're like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Especially those of us with littles in the house. Sometimes you're like, how in the world? Like, I don't even know what's happening. Everyone is screaming at once. This is a lot right now. But we've all been there. And so I think a practical step, maybe you're saying, I love that idea, but I feel alone in the journey. I feel like I don't have that person I could call to really share what's going on or to ask for prayer. And so I would encourage you, get in a life group. We have life groups for a reason, to be able to share in the journey in a smaller group, in a home. We do these rotations of life group, women's D group, men's D group, and then life group. And so in the bulletin, it's all the details there. But we have, you know, once a month, we've got women's D group to be able to really share your heart without, you know, the kids and the husbands and the whatever. And then we have life group, which is a time where we're all together and we're able to share in that family life. And then we have men's and women's events that happen every other month. We have so many opportunities. So that would be my practical encourage you, wherever you're at, to say, okay, I'm going to take that next step, and I'm going to get real with someone. And I'm going to get somebody's phone number, and I'm going to text them and say, hey, all my children are screaming. Will you pray for me? Because that is real life, right? I am so thankful for these ladies, for them sharing their hearts with you tonight. And Abby, you shared this verse earlier, but it's Isaiah 54:13. I have a different version, but it says, all your children will be taught by the Lord, and great will be their peace. And that verse encourages me so much, because I think about the portion that God has given me, and maybe for you, it is little kids in your home right now. Maybe it is big kids in your home right now. Maybe it is other people that you are loving on as if they were your kids. And maybe it is a different situation where you are reaching out to people in your community and loving on them. Whatever your portion is, God says that the children, or whoever that you're loving on, they will be taught by the Lord. The Lord will be their teacher. The Lord is the one guiding them, directing them. And so for me, what it looks like so many times is just saying, God, these kids are yours. They are yours. They've been yours from the beginning. Show me what to do. Give me wisdom and revelation on what to do, because I don't know. I don't have it for my own self. And so as we cry out to God, he says that he will give us that heavenly wisdom to be able to do the thing that's in front of us today. And so I know for us, we all come in carrying different things today. And so here in just a minute, as we close out this service, we're just going to have a time to be prayed for. And maybe today you say, hey, I'm coming in with a lot of pain, and I don't know how to pour it out to the Lord. I need help. And maybe that's just coming, we're going to invite our leaders forward, and maybe that's just coming forward and you having a chance to share something that's on your heart, to be able to maybe start that process of unwrapping your pain, of sharing that place. Maybe for you, motherhood is a story of disappointment, and maybe there's a place where you need to just share with someone else or with the Lord, Lord, I'm disappointed, and I need you to meet me here in this place. And the other word I really felt like for tonight was hope. And my prayer is just that God would infuse hope into all of us, no matter where we're at, what we walk in carrying today, but that God would give us a new perspective, as if we have, I just turned 40, and a lot of times it's hard for me to see when I'm like reading something. I'm like, oh my goodness. And all of a sudden I put on my reading glasses, which I'm like, I have reading glasses. Oh my goodness. But I put on my reading glasses and I'm like, oh, I can see it. I can read it. I have a different perspective. And I pray that God would give you a new set of glasses today, a new perspective. The things in front of you are the same. Maybe they haven't changed, but God would give you a new perspective infused with hope, to be able to see things in a different way, to be able to walk through them in a different way. And so, ladies, if you don't mind staying up here with me, and we'll just kind of stand here. And if I could invite my other leaders to come and join us. And I want us just to stand up here and to be able to pray for you. So if you have something that's on your heart that you'd love to share, let's all go ahead and stand. And I'm going to pray for us. And if there's something on your heart, I would encourage you to take that step of faith today.